What's up, guys? Carolina Jackpot time, checking in. What's up, guys? Carolina Jackpot time, checking in. I want to talk real quick about something that triggered me today. Uncle Lou. Triggered me today.
Good morning.
Triggered me today.
How mad are you?
Triggered me today.
Wear the price like a crown. Negativity, calculate what we will not tolerate. Desperate to control all and everything, unable to forgive the scarlet letter.
Yep. Good morning. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. ACC today, so let's get right into it. The Atlantic Division first. We'll start with the Atlantic Division. Now, this obviously is the tougher of the two divisions in terms of talent. You got FSU, Clemson, Louisville, NC State, at the top of this division here, and then a few scragglers at the bottom, Boston College, Syracuse, and Wake Forest. Now, this is a two-team race this year, I think, between Florida State and Clemson. Louisville and NC State, though, are not bad teams. They're not terrible teams. I'll talk about that in a second here. But let's start at the bottom down here because that's the easiest. Boston College, I think, is finishing last in this division. Syracuse, 6th. Wake Forest, 5th. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that order got flip-flopped, but that's how I'm going to go. Wake Forest, 5. Syracuse, 6. Boston College, 7. Now, 3 and 4, these are also difficult for me to choose. Louisville with Lamar Jackson is dangerous. They're going to beat some teams. They just are. Louisville does not have a complete team like some of the other teams in this division do, but Lamar Jackson could very well be the best player in the ACC this year. Some may argue best player in the nation. But anyway, and NC State also to me is a dangerous team this year. But because of Lamar Jackson, I'm going to bump NC State down to 4. And Louisville, 3rd. That leaves Florida State and Clemson. And just like I've done in the majority of the other preview videos, you have to look at the schedule here. And this is really, really, really bad news if you're a Clemson fan this year. Let's start with the obvious. You lost Deshaun Watson. Now, your team is very talented. I mean, you're loaded with NFL talent on both sides of the ball. But the reality of the situation is you just don't replace Deshaun Watson. I don't care what recruits you've got lined up behind him at the quarterback position. You're not replacing Deshaun Watson. You can look at Florida State and Jameis Winston from a few years ago. Okay, Florida State remained a good team, but not as good when they lost Jameis Winston. You just don't replace a transformational player like Deshaun Watson. Now, you may get good quarterback play this year, but you're not replacing Deshaun Watson. Now, with the schedule, and this is where it really gets brutal for Clemson. Clemson has to play at Louisville, at Virginia Tech, and at NC State. They're not winning all of those games. They're going to trip up and lose one of those games. Clemson is better than all 3 of those teams. Okay, in my opinion. Clemson is better than all 3 of those teams. But those are 3 of the top teams in the ACC right there. Those are 3 of the top 5 teams in the ACC, and you play them all on the road. Not good. Not good at all. Florida State, on the other hand, they get Miami at home, NC State at home, and Louisville at home. All winnable games for Florida State. And the fact that it's at home makes it that much better if you're a Florida State fan. So for those reasons, regardless of what happens in the FSU and Clemson game, which I think will be a good game, regardless of who wins or loses the Florida State-Clemson game, I think Florida State wins the Atlantic side of the ACC and makes it to the ACC title game. Clemson is a very, very good team. I'm not knocking Clemson, so any of you taters, don't even get mad. This is just a prediction video. Lord knows I've been wrong once or twice before. I could be wrong again, but right now I've got to pick Florida State to win this side of the division, the Atlantic Division. And now we'll do the Coastal. All right, now for the Coastal side, we'll just start at the very bottom. No point in saying anything else about this team other than that they're at the very bottom and will finish last in the Coastal, and that's Virginia. They're just terrible. They're not going bowling this year. They'd be lucky to win 3 or 4 games, honestly. So last place on this side, Virginia. Nothing else left to say. Now it gets a little bit harder after that. I have Duke after that. Now, every few years, Duke puts a run together and wins 8 or 9 games or something like that. I don't see that happening for them this year. They struggled last year. So I have to put Duke right now at 6th. I think they could finish as high as 5th, but I just don't think they have enough this year to get much higher than that in this division, and I think they'll be struggling for bowl eligibility this year. 5th, Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech's a hard team to nail down this year. They have a ton of returning starters from a team that won, I think, 9 games last year. So they could easily be picked a little bit higher in this division. My issue with Georgia Tech, similar to Clemson, well, not really all that similar, let's be real. But anyway, they're also replacing their quarterback, Justin Thomas. And Justin Thomas is probably the best quarterback that Paul Johnson has had at Georgia Tech in terms of running that style of offense that Paul Johnson likes to run. And I just don't see them getting the same type of production out of whoever they put in there this year. I can't think of the guy's name right now that's starting. He did play a little bit last year, and I guess he looked okay. I just don't see them. I just don't see him in his first full year giving them what Justin Thomas was able to give them last year. So I've got to put Georgia Tech right now in the 5th place spot. Maybe they finish a spot higher, but right now I've got them in 5th. Then North Carolina. Now North Carolina also lost their quarterback, and they've been, people talk about UJ being overrated. North Carolina seems to be overrated quite a bit too. They did make it to the ACC championship game against Clemson 2 seasons ago and actually should have won that game. They got completely screwed and jobbed by the referees on that onside kick. But I think they're going to struggle this year. This isn't a very good division here. There's not very many elite teams on this side of the division. In fact, I could argue really that there are no elite teams on this side of the division. So even though I've got UNC at 4th, I could see them finishing 6th. There's not a whole lot of difference in my opinion between really the bottom 5 teams in this division, and none of them are all that good. I've got Pitt coming in at 3rd. Of course, they beat Clemson last year. Again, a team that really could go either way. I'm putting them in at 3rd. Would I be shocked if they finished 5th? No. I don't see them finishing any higher than 3rd, though. I'm pretty confident on my top 2 teams here. Of course, that leaves Miami and Virginia Tech as the cream of the crop on this side of the division in the ACC. So, again, if you look at the schedules, Miami, of course, they play Florida State every year, and this year they have to play at Florida State. They also play at Duke, at North Carolina, and at Pitt. And yes, I had to write some of these schedules down if you're wondering what I'm looking at. I'm not in the business of memorizing ACC schedules. So, yeah, Miami plays at FSU, at Duke, at UNC, and at Pitt. And then at home, they get Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. Now, getting Virginia Tech at home is a big deal this year, I think, for Miami. That game could be the one that ends up deciding this side of the division. It wouldn't surprise me at all for Miami and Virginia Tech to finish with the same conference record. So then that game, of course, being the tiebreaker in Miami against Virginia Tech. You look at Virginia Tech's schedule, they have to play Clemson. Miami doesn't. So that's a benefit for Miami. Now, they do get Clemson at home. They get UNC at home and Pitt at home, but they have to play at Georgia Tech and of course, like I mentioned, at Miami. So this is probably the hardest one I've had to do out of all my predictions so far. I really don't want to pick Miami because of the whole Mark Richt thing. I really don't. But I think I'm going to have to pick them to win this side of the division this year. Now, don't worry, no chance they're winning the ACC, regardless of who they play, whether it's FSU, Clemson, Louisville, NC State even, whoever they end up playing from the other side of the division, they're not winning the ACC championship game. But I'm going to put Virginia Tech at 2, and the Miami Hurricanes at number 1. So Miami against Florida State in the ACC championship game. Florida State rolls, not even close. Florida State will be clicking on all cylinders by then. Florida State rolls in that game, which is not a surprise to you if you've watched any of my live streams where people have asked me about my playoff predictions. I have Florida State winning the ACC and making the playoff this year. Anyway, that's the ACC. Have a great day and even better morning if you can. If you can't, try again tomorrow.